everyone, it's Maki here. The mobile suits that appear in the Gundam series have extremely detailed and delicate settings. These ideas are sometimes not only developed by the staff responsible for the official settings, but also by the designers during the design stage. Today, we will take a look at an interesting opinion about the Duel Gundam from the C series. We will analyze the thoughts of Mr. Keiichiro Kotogiri, who participated in designing the GATX series. There is one important note to keep in mind. The topic we will discuss today is based on Mr. Kotogiri's ideas during the design phase. Because of that, we do not know how many of his ideas were actually reflected in the official setting. However, it is also true that the concepts he imagined are reflected in the design itself. Please listen to this discussion bearing in mind that it represents one designer's perspective and one possible interpretation. You may discover some helpful hints that could make viewing or customizing gunpla and figures even more interesting. If you would like to support my channel, please consider joining the 99 cents monthly membership. As a thank you, you will receive a name badge and special comment stamps. Now then, let's begin the discussion. This time, we will analyze the topic using images shared by Mr. Kotogiri on his X account. First, let's consider the question, what design philosophy led to the creation of Duel Gundam? Let's take a look at Mr. Kotogiri's design concept. He explained the idea as follows. Duel Gundam was one of the earliest mobile suits of the Earth Alliance forces. Many different combat methods were explored. However, it was quickly determined that equipping a single mobile suit for artillery combat, close-range melee combat stealth operations and assault attacks would make achieving sufficient performance difficult. Consequently, the decision was made to develop specialized mobile suits, each designed for a specific role. Consequently, the Duel Gundam was designed to reflect its name. It was designed for close-range melee combat. However, it was believed that attacking a mobile suit covered in metal armor with a blade would not be very effective. Creating an effective weapon from the same material would be very difficult. Let's consider an example using clay. What would happen if you pressed a clay knife against a lump of clay? If both objects are made of the same material, the thinner and smaller one would naturally lose. However, a new technology called phase shift armor has created new possibilities. This technology neutralizes physical impact through electrical effects, leading to new developments for the Duel Gundam. A mechanism has been installed that enables the mobile suit to attack enemies with spike armor, mounted on its shoulders. The shoulder spikes rotate and fold away when not in use. This prevents them from damaging other equipment while inside hangars or storage areas. The shoulders contain pivots for the rotation mechanism. The configuration with the armor stored is considered the standard one. In addition, the Duel Gundam was equipped with features that take advantage of its humanoid form. One such feature is the ability to punch the opponent with its arms. In order to perform this striking tactic, the palms and fingers, which are delicate components, needed to be protected. For this reason, wristbands were added. When executing the striking tactic, the wristbands move to protect the area from the wrist to the fingertips. Mobile suits are designed as weapons, so even the smallest details have a functional purpose. The four rails on the sides of the arms are grooves for the wristband's sliding mechanism. However, the Earth Alliance forces also considered the possibility that the enemy might adopt phase shift armor. In that case, the shoulder spike armor and the wristbands would likely be ineffective. Furthermore, when battlefield tactics centered around mobile suits were considered, it was judged that this equipment might not be very useful. For this reason, these features were never actually used in combat. This is the opinion expressed by Mr. Kotagiri. The Duel Gundam was only in the experimental and testing stage as a weapon and was never formally adopted. Because of this, it is thought that it also carried equipment that was not yet fully practical during the prototype stage. It is interesting to note that the sharp parts on the shoulders were intended for offensive use. It is also fascinating that the round part was designed as a pivot for the rotation mechanism. Having a spiked weapon mounted on the shoulder also evokes memories of the Zaku that appeared in the original 0079. The wristbands are another interesting feature. They are designed for the simple and primitive act of striking an enemy with the arm. Although it is an extremely simple attack method, when combined with phase shift armor technology, it appears to be a very effective tactic. It is interesting, too, that even the four grooves on the arms have a specific function. Mr. Kotagiri designed the mobile suit, paying attention to even the smallest details. When you observe the Duel Gundam bearing in mind Mr. Kotagiri's ideas, you will notice many details. The shoulder spikes and wristbands are painted dark blue. Mr. Kotagiri established a rule that areas expected to receive strong impacts should be painted dark blue. This makes it clear that the knees were also designed as weapons for Duel Gundam's close-range combat. The tips of the feet, which would sustain many impacts, are also painted dark blue. Strong impacts would likely occur not only when running, but also when kicking an enemy. The area around the cockpit, where the pilot sits, is also painted dark blue. The area surrounding the main camera, an important component, is also painted dark blue. Mr. Kotagiri's words that the design has functional reasons behind it leave a strong impression. Looking at the design of Duel Gundam with these words in mind can lead to a very meaningful viewing experience. Now, let's take a look at his illustration depicting Duel Gundam in combat. Each function is carefully and thoroughly explained. First, check the text in the top left corner. Strike Gundam carries various additional equipment on the upper part of its shoulders. Because of that, its frame structure is designed to extend in width. In the case of Duel Gundam, it is assumed that lateral impacts will occur from spike attacks. For this reason, it uses a frame that is longer in the vertical direction. The text on the right provides additional information about the shoulder frame. In the case of the Strike Gundam, the shoulder frame is wide from left to right in order to support the additional equipment. The Duel Gundam, on the other hand, is designed to handle impacts from sideways striking attacks. This is a major difference between the two models. Consequently, its shoulders have a different shape to those of the Strike Gundam. The vertically launched shape comes from this design philosophy. Next is the text about the wristbands. As its name suggests, the Duel Gundam was designed as a weapon specializing in melee combat tactics. When striking an enemy, the wrist guard slides to protect the manipulator, a delicate component. This is almost the same explanation as that given earlier. In this illustration, we can see the wrist guard in its deployed state. Finally, there is the text written at the bottom. This part describes the legs. In melee combat, it is necessary to close the distance to the enemy quickly. For this reason, the armor on the legs has been minimized as much as possible to reduce weight. However, the legs themselves are almost the same shape as those of the Strike Gundam. This is because the Strike Gundam was not designed to mount traditional equipment on its legs. These were the concepts that Mr. Kotagiri had in mind when designing the Duel Gundam. As I mentioned at the outset, it is important to bear in mind that today's discussion is based on the concepts Mr. Kotagiri conceived during the design stage. We have no way of knowing whether the Duel Gundam that appeared in the seed story actually has the functions Mr. Kotagiri envisioned. Nevertheless, the concept of combat methods from a time when mobile suit technology was still in its infancy is fascinating. Since this was before the BM rifle was fully developed, it is interesting to speculate that these combat methods were conceived for that reason. It is also fascinating how the characteristics of phase shift armor are used so effectively in melee combat tactics. The phase shift armor that appeared in the story was only portrayed as very highly defensive armor. I felt that I would have liked to see the kind of attack that Mr. Kotagiri envisioned, one that utilizes the characteristics of phase shift armor. If you own a Duel Gundam model or figure, take a closer look to appreciate the designer's ideas hidden within its simple design. Thank you very much for watching all the way to the end. I will see you again in the next episode.